Hear the drummer get wicked. 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 Hear the drummer get wicked.
In this video, Steve's been looking at the Numark Scratch mixer. You've been playing with this for quite a while.
Yep.
And I've been looking at the number of people saying that they are either interested in this or who have bought it.
Yep.
So the kind of backstory here is that we've only just got around to reviewing this for all kinds of reasons. But in the meantime, this thing's been flying off the shelves. And for lots of good reasons. It makes compromises in some places, but in other places, it gives you incredible value for money. And if you're thinking about getting into scratching, it could be the best start possible. For under $500, this thing gives you a mixer which is brilliantly built and has got all the basics on it. Steve, could you scratch to the standard of the very best scratch DJs on this mixer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's got an inner fader in it, which we'll talk about, which is like the de facto faders that scratch DJs want to use. And it's got all the right controls that you need to get started, especially things like crossfader, curve and stuff like that. And it is, well, put it this way, I can scratch to a certain level, only to a certain level, and this has got capabilities beyond my talent. So,
and just to point out, this guy is the guy behind our scratch training, which takes you to the very, very top level. So he's being modest here. The point is that this mixer does everything that you need to learn to scratch and then adds in Serato control. So therefore, if you want to learn to scratch and you want to use Serato software, and as you're about to find out, it not only lets you do that, but you don't have to buy the software or anything. You plug it in, it'll just all work. For under $500, it's brilliant. And you've just heard that it's got everything you need to scratch to a very high level. What we need to do though, is take a little tour around what this has got and what it hasn't got. If you're watching this as someone who's a bit more experienced and thinking, actually, you know what, that might be all I need. We'll cover that stuff as well. So to start with, it's for Serato. So that's the first thing you have to know. Yes, you can scratch with vinyl on it and stuff, but that's not the point. You can get a cheaper mixer to do just that.
Yeah.
It doesn't need an audio interface or anything like that. You literally plug it in. It will even unlock the Serato software, so you don't need to go and buy the software as well. So that's the first thing you need to know. The second thing you need to know about this is it's not full blown. It hasn't got everything the bigger things have got on it. So I think we should take a tour of it.
Yeah.
And then we can cover what it has and hasn't got as we do that, Steve.
All right, so it's a 2-channel mixer, like you said. So it's got a very clean area here for scratch DJs because there's a lot of hand movements going on. So you need to be able to get to the faders quickly and have your crossfader unencumbered. So from a design point of view, it's absolutely perfect. Here you've got controls for the crossfader curve or slope as it's called here. So it's either the sharp cut or the smooth fade.
So you don't get a choice of, between. It's like either or. So there's a little compromise there, but not a massive one for scratching.
But it is fine. And you can adjust the curve of the up faders if you want in the Serato software.
In the software itself.
And you do have a button for reverse or hamster mode, which basically means that the functionality of the crossfader is reversed. Some people prefer that way of scratching.
So we were talking about the fader. Let's just quickly cover that off. Inner Fader is one of the premium brands of fader. Feel as good as anything else?
Yeah, it feels really, really nice. And it's replaceable and changeable as well via a panel on the back.
Lift the panel up, drop something else in there if you want it. So again, no real compromises there. This is all how you would want it in a mixer at any price.
Now, as we go up, when you're talking about mixers like the Pioneer DJ MS9 or the Rain 72 or the Reloop Elite, those mixers have a lot of buttons here. They have a lot more pads. This has gone with 4 pads. So this is 4 cue pads or sample pads or controls over the loop roll function. Those are the 3 pad modes that you can access in Serato DJ from here. It would have been nice to see 8 pads.
It's a bit unusual that, because these are quite long. I mean, they don't look that long compared to pro mixers, but these are quite long up faders, and actually scratch DJs would be happy with an inch shorter there, right? And another 4 pads of that size.
It would be fine, yeah. So
seems a bit strange
what that decision is based on, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's to try and keep the price down, but I can't imagine just a few more pads would have made.
Or maybe to differentiate it from more expensive mixers up the group of family of brand names. But anyway, an extra 4 pads each side would have been good. That said, you can do an awful lot with this. You can control 4 cues, which is more than a lot of people will ever need.
Yep.
You can also trigger 4 samples. Again, you can do quite a lot with that.
Yep.
And the loop rolling is probably the most limiting for me as a kind of a DJ that comes from a non-scratch background. But for scratching, are you ever going to want to loop big, long chunks of a tune, or?
No, you've only got, I'll just quickly show you loop roll here, we may as well. So go into loop roll function. So we'll switch loop off. So you can see on the screen there.
That's looping very, very small fractions of a beat.
1/32 of a beat, a 16th, an 1/8 and a quarter of a beat. So that's all I've got on these 4 pads at the moment. But by changing the loop encoder, I can change what appears in those top 4 slots, like you can see on the screen. And so now I've got an 1/8, a quarter, a half and a beat. So you're only going to have 4 of those available at one time, and you have to learn to use the loop encoder in order to change those 4 slots.
And you can't go much higher than that, right? If I try and get that higher, that's kind of like, that's what we start.
The most is 2 beats.
Okay, so that is a limitation.
Yep.
Again, not a huge one.
No. And there's another use for this loop encoder as well, which is if you hold down shift, you can actually scroll up and down in your currently selected crate, and you can also load a track onto that deck by pressing down on it whilst you've got shift held.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Some people, even with top high-end mixers, still use their keyboard to load tracks because it's just easy. But it's nice to know you've got it there if you need it. Yep. But again, there's a compromise because you can't switch from files to playlists and stuff. But generally, you wouldn't do that in the middle of a Scratch performance anyway, would you? You'd have all your tracks in one playlist anyway.
Exactly,
so
yeah, quick way to just scroll to the next track and load it. You've got it there.
Awesome. Let's move on to the effects, because the effects here look similar to something like a Pioneer DJ MS9, where you got the big paddle for hold and momentary, and you've got all these effects here. But these are software effects, unlike that mixer, which controls Serato's built-in effects, and it's got hardware effects. This is purely software. This is controlling one of the effects units on the software for each side.
Yep.
So again, this is a limitation, but a limitation that is kind of knowing.
Yeah.
Who cares? You know, they're there, you can use them. If you want to plug vinyl in, you can't, because it's their software effects. So you can't unplug the laptop and use the effects as you can with more expensive mixers. However, as we're going to find out, you can use the filter without the computer, which is nice. But anyway, let's talk about these ones.
So as you said, these are changing the effects in one effect slot. So again, you can see that on the screen: echo, delay, flanger, reverb. I think that's called version echo, probably got that wrong, and phaser. So they're changing the effect in that slot. You don't have any control on the mixer to be able to change the beat value of the effects.
So this is how quick an echo or how quick a delay will echo or delay out, for instance.
So if we get that's a quarter beat, but in the software here I can change that to 1 beat. But you have to make those changes in the software. So quite a lot of the time you're needing to either look at the screen or actually do stuff on the software compared to other mixers where you may have more control on them.
And there's no displays on here or anything, which you do find on higher end mixers as well. So let's have a listen through the effects. I know people will have heard Serato effects before who use Serato, but people thinking about buying one of these who haven't, maybe just don't know what these effects are. Let's just have a listen to what you get.
So it's echo. And there, of course, post fader, which means the effect carries on when you bring the fader down. Got delay.
Echo and delay are kind of like similar, but a slight tonal difference, which we could go into, but we won't. Okay, flanger.
We have flanger now. Reverb. And of course, a big use of this type of paddle, i.e., a momentary trigger of an effect, is often used with reverb on deck stops.
Yeah, the old classic reverb out.
Yeah. So that's that echo with lots and lots of feedback coming through it, and then phaser.
Similar to flanger. The old plane taking off effect.
So
okay, cool. Yeah. So
I actually really like that they've gone to the trouble of doing this, because this is very, very similar to the Pioneer DJ MS9. So again, for this price, to have that kind of, to learn how to use effects like that in your Scratch DJing means that if you do step up to a Pioneer S9, you're going to know how to do it.
Okay, so we've got control over Serato's effects there, done quite nicely with a big knob for wet and dry as well, which is just the amount of the effect. Meters for master and cue, they're only five bar meters, but that's enough. That's enough to keep you out of the red, so to speak. Talk to us about the loop encoder, seeing you're pointing to it pointedly.
Yep. So on the screen, as I've already said, this changes the loop value. So if I get to 1 beat, push it down, now I have my 1 beat, and by turning it,
that is the best way of doing looping on controllers, in my humble opinion and in our opinion. It's simple, it's on one knob, you can set a loop, and by the time it does something, you can set the value you want on it, and you can change the value without turning it on anyway. It's just the easiest way to do looping, and I wish more people would do it. It's good to see it on here. And of course, just again, in terms of needing to refer to the screen, before you trigger that loop, you do just have to have a cursory check of what your loop value is on screen, in case you've actually got it set to like 1/16 for an effect that you were using. You might get used to just going like that and then going 632, 16, 8, right. You know, literally 4 clicks. Some people will do that over time, but some mixes have a display on that means you don't have to do that. Yep. Okay, so the looping's good, but look, you have to look at the screen. It's kind of a common theme here. It's a hybrid between doing it on here and checking what's going on the screen. Yeah. Let's move on to the filters. Big filter knobs. That's nice to see. Serato filters, so it sounds as good or as bad as the filters doing Serato, but it's the one thing that does work when you unplug the computer as well. So if you're DJing with vinyl, you've got the filter there. Yep. 3-band EQ with gain, nothing unusual there. You like that? It was all working as it should. Yeah, great for blend mixing as well. You know, you've got everything you need there. Standard headphone stuff, standard microphone stuff. You do get a microphone socket on the back with tone and volume for the microphone, so that's reasonable on a mixer of this kind of level. I've got all the inputs and outputs you would expect on the back. So you've got a booth output and a master output, and you've got balanced output as well there. So there's nothing missing from there. And then just around the front, there's 1/4 and 1/8-inch headphones. The thing about this is, no one else has got a Scratch mixer for Serato at this price point. And no one else has got this nice feature where you plug in a lead and then you plug it into a computer and it unlocks Serato. You don't own that copy of Serato. You try plugging something else into your computer, it won't work. So you're kind of buying a hardware-specific Serato license as well with this, which is just nice. If this is going to be your setup, hey, you've effectively got Serato as well. And for $499, that is a great price for everything there. It does pair with some Numark turntables, which are also great value. We'll give you details about those underneath as well. And that setup for a full Scratch setup, branded Numark across the whole lot, is great quality. And as Steve says, it will let you do everything up to a very, very high standard without ever missing the stuff that setups that cost literally 3 times the price can do. So what I love about this, it's kind of democratizing scratching to a certain extent. It's you know, people are going to be able to convince their parents to maybe buy them this and a setup, you know, 1/3 of the price of another type of especially setup. If daddy's got some decks in the loft that have been there for 20 years that can be dusted off because of this kind. I think it's going to give birth to a whole new generation of Scratch. And we think it already is, because this seems to be flying off the shelves. Certainly our mailbox is showing us that people are buying and loving this. So it's a Numark Scratch mixer. It's great value. We really like it. It doesn't do everything the big high-end stuff does, but it does everything you need to not only start but get very good in scratching. There's a full written review as well, and if you've enjoyed this, please like, follow, share. We'll see you next time.